Hello, welcome to Leadership and Learning, the podcast where we help leaders design learning strategies that fuel growth. I'm Jeremy Roth, Fractional Chief Learning Officer or Cloro On Demand, helping startups and scaling companies align people, performance, and purpose. So today we're going to talk about secondary learning or social learning. The important thing about social learning is how it applies in your daily learning schedule and how it influences what you learn, how well you learn it, and how you apply what you learned going forward. So, what we're going to do in this session is we're going to talk about what social learning is, where it fits within your 70-20-10 rule of learning, and then how you can apply that in your learning environment going forward. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. First off, social learning. The cool thing about social learning is this is where your folks get together and discuss what needs to be learned, how they're going to apply it, and what that's going to look like moving forward. So let's say you've got a brand new technical trainer starting. Okay. And this technical trainer wants to do the best that they can do. So you set them up with a mentor. The mentor is going to walk them through this is how you train, this is how you utilize the tools, these are how the tools are going to be applied, and this is how you're going to execute within the classroom, whether it's online or within any other example. Okay. Now, prior to this, you would have hired someone that knows how to train. They know how to do their job. They're probably fairly technical because they're a technical trainer, and they're able to learn the platform. And so they're going to go online and they're going to train on the platform itself that they're going to be teaching. And that online training, that formal training, that is going to be their 10% learning. Okay. The 70% is the time that they're going to be spending going back and practicing. They're going to be in the platform. They're going to be playing around with it. They're going to be experimenting. They're going to learn how things work, how things break, how you're going to fix things when they break. Probably spending a lot of time, excuse me, probably they're going to be spending a lot of time in the platform. Oh, oh, something's in my eye. They're probably going to be spending a lot of time in the platform working on their demo, like how they're going to be demoing this when they teach. Okay, that's their 70%. So that leaves 20% learning. And this is where working with a mentor, working with other trainers, observing those trainers, spending time with how those trainers work in order to best um, execute the training in compliance with how things are done where you work. Okay, and that's your social learning. Another example of social learning would be in your maybe you have regular engineering updates on new products and new items, and so they'll do a general training, get things out there, and then they'll do a Q&A. A Q&A is a really good example of social learning. Another good example would be sharing best practices, whether through Confluence or through a dedicated learning experience platform. But you're able to, as general trainers or general participants in the community, share best practices and teach one another how things work. Okay. A good example of this would be in a customer environment would be a community page where people share best practices, answer questions, give back and forth, provide their opinions, provide their examples of what worked for them, so that folks can learn and grow uh, together. That's social learning. Okay, so I talked about how this works in the 70-20-10 rule. And that 70-20-10 is 70% of your learning is going to be on your own, going through the labs, going through examples, going through the documentation, really spending time building your knowledge based off of what you're learning. That's your 70%. The 20% is social learning, getting and discussing. And then 10% is going to be formal training. You're in a classroom virtually or remotely, and you're discussing how things are going to work and what that's going to look like. Okay. The great thing about that example of the 70-20-10 70-20-10 rule is that it also is a direct parallel to how cohort learning works. So if you are, maybe you're a leader and you've gone to a leadership training cohort, you know it takes maybe 10 weeks and you're all getting together. You go to the kickoff and then you spend maybe 1 hour a week in a classroom with everyone, either virtually or in person, and you're getting formal training or formal learning. And then you'll break out with your smaller cohorts, within the larger cohort, your smaller groups, and you'll probably discuss kind of what you learned and how you plan to apply it. And then you'll go back during the week and you'll apply it maybe for 3 days. And then you'll get together in your small group, discuss what worked, what didn't, how can you better improve, go back and try it again for the remainder of the week. And then when you get back together, um, at the beginning of the week or the end of the week or whenever your formal training is going to be, you're going to report and explain how things worked. That's cohort learning, and it follows that same 70-20-10 rule. Okay, so how do you apply this? Well, with cohort learning, that's pretty formal. You outline exactly what it's going to look like. You're going to outline the breakout sessions. You know how it's all going to work, and it's going to be well structured. That works very well. In day-to-day learning, this takes a little bit more time. So the way you want to look at it is who is being trained and how are you enabling them. For your employees, you're going to have formal training, which will be through your LMS or your LXP internally. Uh, they go through the class, they're done, they've got the basic skills, and at least they generally understand what those skills are going to be. They now need to apply it. So they'll go back to their regular day, and then if it's available, they'll start playing around with it. And that's their 70%. That 20% is where teams need to get together and discuss what was learned, how they're applying it, and what they can do to better formulate that going forward. That is going to be your 20%. That can either be structured by the manager, that can be structured through maybe a Slack channel, but it really needs to be mandated and monitored by leadership, so that the leadership know that people are participating and they're learning and they're getting in and engaging. Because that 20% time, it doesn't sound like it's a whole lot of time, and maybe it's not that important, but it's incredibly important, because this is how, as a group, you're getting standard results from training, because the group is enforcing those standard results based off of best practices. And if you don't have best practices, this is where they're going to be defined. So that is what you want to do for employees. For customers, you have the benefit of, for social learning, the community organization. So a lot of organizations really love having a community. They really want to start a community. Most startups I've seen try this, and they really don't know what to do with it. So they'll go in, they'll try to do a community, and they'll say, "Hey, everyone, go to the community," and they just expect it to spontaneously happen. It's not going to. Customers aren't going to go someplace where they can't get value. So you need to precede that community with some valuable information, and that is where your learning and development team is going to be invaluable. Your support team is going to be great. Your professional services team, those folks who are out there doing implementations and doing deployments, and they know how things are going to work and how what questions customers are going to ask. Those are the folks that need to go in and really precede this. There may be some like opportunities where an engineer can come in and share like how things were intended to work, and this is what they would do, and in future this is what to look for. That would be great, and that's wonderful. But really, you want to get down to this is broken. How do I fix it? And what's the best practice? Once you get that in there, then you start getting a core group of community submissions. Those core community submissions, and those core groups that are generally active in there answering questions. They're the ones that are then going to be answering questions for other customers, and you're going to start seeing more and more customers wanting to participate, particularly particularly if you have a leadership board. That's going to be absolutely fabulous. So, those are some of the things that you can do for customers. Now, the wonderful thing about the customer community environment is it applies for partners as well. Partners want to be seen as experts, and those partners will be submitting questions, answers, everything as well into the community so that they can show their expertise, so that when they show up for a job, folks can say, "Oh, you know what? I was going through the community. I saw your name. You're pretty well known. I know you know what you're doing. People like what you're saying, so you know what you're going to be doing when you're doing this implementation." Okay. All right. So we talked about the importance of social learning, where it falls within your 70-20-10 rule, and then how you can implement that for customers, for partners, and then also internally, how that's going to work. Okay, so what do you need to do from this moment forward? Decide how your training is working. What are you focusing on? My guess is you're probably focusing on the 10%. As wonderful as that is, you really need to focus on the rest of it. 70%, really good documentation. That needs to be in there. Your 20%, social learning. You need to make sure that that's reinforced. Get all that in place, and then you're stellar. If you need help with this, feel free to reach out. I'm always here. Just go to robclan.com, click on book a call, and let's book a 30-minute free strategy call and get to know what your problems are and then how we can help. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for listening to Leadership and Learning. I'm Jeremy Robb. We'll see you next week for more insights on learning leadership for growth.